Prof, last week when I spoke to you on this case, on this determined case in 2008, you were clear that if the Clerk of Parliament this week doesn't do what the judgment prescribes, as in inform Privileges Committee of the vacancy, he will be in contempt of court. Today is the second day of parliamentary sitting this week. That hasn't happened yet. How are you reading that?
Well, if that hasn't happened, Evans, and good evening to your audience, if that hasn't happened, as you have alleged, then indeed it's a big problem. It's a serious problem. The clerk should be a little worried because he's teetering on the verge of violating his oath of office. He's a constitutional officer and he's obliged to follow the Constitution. The issue here is a clear-cut one, and I want to correct a point you made. The clerk's notification does not go to the Committee on Privileges. The clerk's notification goes to the Electoral Commission.
Okay.
And then the Electoral Commission itself is bound to have a by-election within 30 days in the case of this type of vacancy. And Evans, look, let's think about Article 97(1)(c). Frankly, I just think it is constitutionalizing common sense. Because Article 97(1)(c) is not talking about excused absence. It's talking about unexcused absence. An MP who just decides to take off without notifying the speaker. And even with that, the article gives such an MP room to do the right thing. Because it says, well, you do that on the first day, there's no consequence constitutionally. The 7th day, there's no consequence. Up to the 15th day, then there's a consequence. Because on that date, we are going to give you the last chance. And that last chance is you must give the Committee on Privileges a reasonable explanation for your unexcused absence. If you allow that 15th day to pass, then the Constitution assumes that you have vacated your office. It's very similar to what will happen to you, Evans, if you decide, without notifying your bosses at DOI or multimedia, not to show up for a certain number of days. Well, I can assure you that your job will not be waiting for you whenever you show up, whatever your explanation is. Because the conformance that is needed is very de minimis. You just go to the speaker or write to the speaker and say to the speaker, I'm going to be doing X, Y, and Z, and so please permit me to be absent for 3 days or 5 days and so on. Why can't such a simple rule be followed? Second, let us be clear that we understand what these 15 sittings refer to. It is not referring to 15 sittings within the 4-year period. And here, let me clarify a few things. The life of Parliament, the 4-year life of Parliament, is divided into 4 sections, with each section about 12 months. Then each section is divided into 3 meetings, with a meeting lasting about 3 months. So the first meeting is January, February, March. Then they are off in April. Then they come to the second meeting, May, June, July. Then they are off August, September. And then they come to the third meeting, October, November, December. So if you read the Article 97(1)(c) carefully and slowly, it talks about 15 sittings in a meeting. 15 sittings in a meeting. So it is saying that if you take a section of parliament, which is 1 year, 12 months, parliament has about 128 sittings. And if you divide that by 3, it comes to about 40 sittings in the meeting. So what we are talking about here is the Constitution does not allow you in a 40-day meeting period to absent yourself for 15 or more days. If you reach the 15th day, then you may be saved by a reasonable explanation. If you allow that 15th day to pass without presenting that explanation, the Constitution itself comes in and it says, look, I'm not going to allow Parliament to make that decision. I'm going to intervene on behalf of your constituents and say to your constituents, you deserve a member of Parliament to be representing you, and so have a by-election and send somebody else in there who can represent you.
So that's the effect of that appeals court judgment, right? That's in essence what it says. What they affirm.
That's what the appeal court is saying. And frankly, that's what the Constitution, Article 97(1)(c), an ordinary or a purposive reading of it will tell you that, look, the Constitution obviously frowns on any unexcused absence. There's no reason for you to be absent without permission. It frowns on that. But it gives you some leeway. And it says, okay, you have 15 days to make things right by either seeking permission of the speaker, or if you can't do that, then on the 15th day, you better have a good reason, and that good reason is not going to be determined by you, it's going to be determined by the Committee on Privileges. However, if you allow the 15th day to elapse, then you are absent almost more than a third of the 40-day meeting period. And in that case, the Constitution automatically vacates your seat, and then it is up to the clerk to notify the Electoral Commission that, hey, we cannot find this MP because nobody knows where you are. And the MP's constituency requires representation.
Yeah.
Therefore, hold election by election.
Very, very interesting. And on that point, we know that Okito Toblako had raised the issue about 2 other MPs, but we can't verify that. But the speaker verified this in the chamber last week about Adwoa Safo, that votes and proceedings confirm she's been away for more than 15 sittings. And that's where you say applying the appeals court interpretation of the law should only lead to one conclusion, that the clerk should already by now, even the clerk didn't know, now having heard the speaker, should have already notified the EC.
Yeah, absolutely. Assuming the facts are right, it has to be 15 sittings in a meeting. And those absences are not cumulative. So for instance, if you are absent without permission for 10 days in the first meeting and absent without permission for 8 days in the second meeting, you don't add them up and say you've been absent for 18 days. No, it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
It is not cumulative. It only applies per meeting. It's a meeting-specific rule. In any given meeting, if you are absent for 15 or more days, your seat is vacated.
Okay.
If you are absent for 15 days, there's some chance that the Privileges Committee will bail you out.
And save you.
And if you are absent without permission for any number of days, the Speaker and the Parliament itself can take a dim view of that, because it's unthinkable to me that somebody can just decide, well, today I'm not going to go to Parliament and I'm not going to...
Yeah, and then tell everybody that I'm going to Parliament.